Howdy. Welcome to my runcast. Wearing my new favorite vest again, which I'm very excited about. Alright, so I was talking about this yesterday and I was actually totally being vague about it on purpose because I don't want to talk disparagingly about people, especially when it's taken completely out of context of everything. Like I don't know, we live in a world, as I was talking about yesterday, how like everything is just immediately on social media all the time. So people hear one thing, didn't see the fight, and people are arguing about it. And like you'll see all of these like ridiculous things that are like everyone is divided about. And you're like, nobody's divided about this. Like people are saying, and it's like one tweet from someone said this, and then they like actually make a lad Bible post about it or whatever. It's ridiculous. But I think this is worth saying, even though I was totally vague about it yesterday. So, as I'm going through these Muay Thai magazines, I'm looking at trends, I'm seeing changes because I've been looking at Muay Thai for so long, looking at Muay Thai media for so long, and something that I noticed that was in this like, God, I forget what year it was, I think it was like 1998, which is after the golden age, but there's all this like calling out of fights. Maybe it was 1996. Which is still very like the very, very end of the golden age. I'm gonna say it was 96. I'm gonna call that. It's 96. There are all these fights being called out. Thai fighters do not call other fighters out. That's not a thing that happens. There's like potentially a little bit of ribbing back and forth in these like pre-fight interviews or something that these like reporters try to get a little bit out of fighters. There's a very, very cute one between Nam Kabun and Orono before their fight. They're very young, they're like 20 years old, it's very sweet, but Thai fighters don't call each other out. That's not a thing that Thai fighters have even a voice for. By and large, when you see a Thai fighter being interviewed before their fight, they're being asked the same 10 questions, and they're answering the same to all of them. So they ask you, how long did you train before this fight? How much weight did you lose? How confident are you going in? And these are mainly things that gamblers want to hear. So they want to know how long you were training before this fight because they want to know whether you're fit. They want to know how much you had to lose for the fight because they want to know whether you're going to be drained. And they want to know how confident you are, which kind of, regardless of how confident you are, everyone always says 100%, except for this very cute interview with Orono where he says 99.9%, which is like, nobody says that. Your answer is 100%. You always have to say 100%. So these are the kinds of voices that Thai fighters have in Thailand, historically speaking. There was a thing that Damian Trainer put out on his Instagram, and I don't know, it felt weird. Like, it felt like he was actually just trying to kind of like drum up positive things to say about one or something, but it's a bunch of fighters calling out Haggerty, and he's like, this is amazing. Thai fighters calling out Haggerty, it shows how great people have become or whatever. I'm like, Thai fighters don't call each other out. They're doing Western drag on a Western show because you're supposed to do that on one. It'd be like, I actually don't know whether there's catcalling in England, but there's fucking catcalling in America. And it would be like someone saying, British people don't catcall. And you're like, oh, but they are these British people who were cast on this American reality TV show that's about catcalling. They're catcalling. Yes, because that's a completely different thing. Like, they're on a promotion that's supposed to be doing that. Anyway, in this 1996 magazine, fighters are being called out, not by other fighters, they're being called out by the heads of the gyms. So this to me is really interesting because Ajahn Tui, who is the head of Sityodtong, was talking about how Chart Chai, Paisi Tong, who's known as Samart 2, he was supposed to fight someone who was considered much better than him. And so Tui was saying if he beats this fighter, who everyone knows is much better than Chart Chai, he should then have a chance to fight against Karahat. And we all know that Chart Chai fought Karahat twice, actually. But this is the head of a gym who actually has a lot of power. Ajahn Tui had a lot of power, going to bat for his fighter to get him better opportunities. That's something that only a big gym can do. Small gyms can yap all they want about who they want their fighters to fight, and it may or may not happen. Ramba is a small gym. He does not have a lot of power, And he's full of kids. He's full of like little kids. This is like not a powerful gym. He actually gets really good opportunities for his little fighters by calling out people who his fighters have absolutely no business fighting and putting a derm pon on it. So basically he's willing to lose money, maybe because they have some sponsors and support to be able to do that, so that his kids can get on these bigger shows against fighters who are really above them in a lot of ways. And occasionally they win, and it's this huge like pop for the name. It's really, really good. They don't necessarily hop into like rankings off of this because it's really unfair. It's really small gyms, but they do get opportunities like this. So Ajahn Tue calling out Karahat essentially, if Charchai can win his next fight, is him going to bat for his fighter. This is really a cool idea. There was another one, and I don't know which side it was coming from, but it was supposed to be Weerapan versus Lock Hin. And this is kind of either a promoter or the head of one of those gyms calling for this fight. And then in the same magazine, in the back, there was yet another one that had to do with Lock Hin, and another really heavy-handed fighter. And so it's going to be this like, you know, heavy punch versus heavy punch matchup. And it was a call out for these fights. And it was not the fighters calling them out, but it was like people peripheral to these fighters calling out for these things, which is interesting. I haven't really seen that much. And then I see it a lot in one month 1996 magazine. This shows that this is something that was having traction enough at that time that it's going to be repeated in this magazine. The same way that I was seeing like Westerners being talked about all through this magazine. So the thing that I didn't say yesterday that I've decided I'm going to talk about today, because I have belief that the people who watch my videos are smart enough that they can figure out that there's a lot of context to things, is that, so in this, this was for sure a 1996 Muay Thai that had this event actually here in Pattaya. It might have been at like the Bali High Pier or something. There's a video of it on YouTube. It's Sang Tianoi versus Danny Bill in 1996 in Pattaya. On Sang Tianoi's Wikipedia, it was mislabeled as the wrong year and the wrong location, so Kevin went in and fixed that because we have actual tactical evidence of it. But so this is old, 1996 in Pattaya against Sang Tianoi, and they don't say this at all in the footage that's on YouTube, which you can watch. You can hear the announcer talking, and if you speak Thai, you can hear how they feel about how that fight's going. But when you're broadcasting on TV, they're kind of at this like polite level of how they're calling fights. They do get very excited. In my magazine, there's a photo of Sang Tianoi on the ground because he's just been tripped. Danny Bill standing above him. And then there's the caption under the photo, which is how magazines work, in case anyone has never seen a magazine or newspaper before. And it says that Danny Bill, who's this fighter from Cameroon, they never call him French, they always say he's from Cameroon, was Liam. So Liam is the word in Thai for being like very tricky and tripping. So like, so like what Sanchai does, this is Liam. This is like tripping people over their own legs and pulling their ankles out from under them and tripping them when they bring their knee up and all this stuff. It's called Liam. So they're saying Danny Bill is good at Liam, and they said he's only good at trips. And then they said Sang Tianoi, Dern, so came forward, grabbed in the clinch and kneed him to victory. So what I was saying yesterday is like the way they talked about Westerners or non-Thai fighters in 1996 is very different from the way they talk about them now. You don't hear as much now, and I was surprised to be reading over and over again in 1996, 97, 98. Anytime they were reporting about Westerners fighting, they're like, they're not actually doing Muay Thai, but it was entertaining. They're basically like, Westerners suck at Muay Thai every time they write about them. And the reason this kind of jumped out to me is that Danny Bill fought Sang Tianoi again 2 years later. I think it was on the King's birthday. And he won the fight against Sang Tianoi. Me watching that fight, I don't know. It was a very close fight for sure. And Danny Bill's much bigger in the second fight than he was in the first fight. And when you're bigger than your opponent, or when you have size, you're able to do a lot of things. Like, you can actually have a lot of kind of freedoms in what you're doing. And he was much smaller. I don't know that he was smaller than Sanctionoy, but he looked like he could have been smaller than Sanctionoy in the 1996 fight. But the thing is, the way Westerners talk about Danny Bill is that he's this completely underappreciated, like, the most femur non-Thai to fight in Thailand, that he, like, does it better than anyone else. And this is interesting because when you look at videos, especially highlights of Danny Bill, he is flipping fucking people all over the place. We've heard from, like, Nam Kabun and Ajahn Pramod, and just kind of, you know, word of mouth is that Danny Bill kind of didn't make weight very well, that he often had a size advantage and would actually just pay, like, a penalty for it. And like I'm saying, when you have a size advantage on someone, you're able to do a lot of stuff that you wouldn't be able to do if you were the same size or even if you had a deficit on that person. So again, Saenchai is fucking incredible, the way that he can flip people around when he's outweighed by people. It's amazing. But Westerners talk about Danny Bill as this incredible femur, like, did it better than anybody. But the way Thais are talking about him at that time, and again, 96 is different from 98. He was actually significantly better in that second fight. So in this early showing in 96, the way he's written about is that he doesn't know Muay Thai. That he pretty much only has this one trick, that he's trying to take Sanctionoy's foot all the time, and he gets him down a couple of times, but he doesn't get him down way more times than he actually succeeds in getting him down. And it's not only Danny Bill. Like I was saying, anytime Westerners are talked about in these magazines, they're always like, they're not doing Muay Thai, but it's entertaining. Like, the gamblers liked it or whatever. Now, the way they talk about them is like, oh, gang mak femur, like, they have the heart of a Thai, like, all this stuff. Very different. And so the reason I'm bringing this up now is not to shame Danny Bill. Danny Bill's great. Danny Bill was doing this at a time when almost no one was doing it. He was fighting differently than how other people who were here in Thailand at that time trying to do Muay Thai. He did it differently than how other people were here at that same time. And the racism in Thailand is not a fucking small thing. So to be this big, dark man in Thailand fighting on huge stages, it's hard. Like, you're not gonna get favorable decisions. Honestly, it's rough. And I think that Danny Bill deserves a lot of credit. And I think that all power to him. But the reason I think it's interesting to talk about how Thais are actually talking about it versus how Westerners talk about it is that I'm an American, right? So I can hear British accents, I can hear Scottish accents, Australian accents. I'm actually really good at hearing people who are hiding accents. It drives me crazy, actually. When Kevin and I are watching something, we'll be in the middle of a movie and I'll be like, that person's hiding an accent. And I'll try to figure out what it is based on the word that they're kind of mispronouncing. Usually it's the word anything. Australian people say anything and they, like, can't not do it. Anyway, I don't think that I know particular British accents, but I can kind of discern accents, and Kevin can't understand people when they speak with an accent sometimes, and for me it's just, like, clear as day. But if a British person, if I'm watching Don Cheadle, right, in whatever Ocean's movie he was in, and he did that, like, Cockney accent, if I'm like, wow, Don Cheadle does one of the best British accents in all of cinema, and then a British person is like, that accent is ass, only one side of that argument is correct. Like, someone who actually is British and knows the accent has much more weight in saying whether that's a good accent or not, versus me as an American being like, no, totally, that's like a perfect British accent. I don't know, it sounds British to me, right? So we, as non-Thais, as Westerners, whose eyes don't know the super details of Muay Thai, some of us are better at it than others. Some of us have terrible eyes. Some of us are starting to get much better eyes. Some of us can see stuff really well. We can see nuances. If we're like, this person did it better than anyone else, and we're comparing them only to other Westerners, sure. But if we're like, this person is like a femur genius in this category, if I'm like, this person has the best Londoner accent ever, and then someone from London is like, no, that's not a London accent, that's the correct one. So I'm not saying Danny Bill sucks. That's not what I'm saying with this. But I'm saying that when Thais were watching him at that time, they were like, this is not Muay Thai. Like, he's good at this one thing, but this is not Muay Thai. I've been criticized. I've been here 12 years, and I've had the very, very uncomfortable misfortune of reading about myself in Muay Thai, which has positives. That's how I know that I have this Thai nickname, Sao Nak Lang Khao, is because I can read, and I've read my name in the female section. So that's how I got my chaya. I don't know that lots of Westerners have chaya in Thailand, so that makes me happy. That's very cool. But I've also read comments, which don't read comments, on the internet, and then I've read comments about me in these little stub things that say who I fought and where I fought. I got so pissed this one time because I beat this girl who I had absolutely, I will say this, I had no business winning a fight against that girl. She is so much better than me. Her name is Cherry, and I beat her the first time we fought. And in Muay Thai, when they wrote it up, there was a little article, and it had a little interview from her trainer, and I was so excited. I was reading about myself in Muay Thai, and it said, Sylvie Yaigwa. Yaigwa means bigger than. I am not fucking bigger than Cherry at all. And I was so mad that they were basically saying the reason I won that fight, or the reason she lost that fight, was that I was bigger than her. This made me really mad. But either that's what her coach is saying, because that's the impression that he got, or her coach is saying that because this is a good excuse to give, or whatever the thing is. But it's written, like it's in that little thing. Does this mean it's true? No. Does this mean this is how it was perceived? Yes. I've also been criticized in Muay Thai, and I hate saying this because it still burns me. It still burns me so hard that people will actually say when they're writing about me because I'm Muay Cow, they're like, this is not beautiful Muay Thai. Like, this is not full Muay Thai. This is really just grabbing and kneeing. And they're not wrong. Like, these are Thai people who watch Muay Thai, who think of Muay Thai as being this full sport that you then have to be able to kick. You have to be able to control distance. You have to be able to understand when you're winning and not charge forward, which I will tell you, I didn't know how to fight around 5 for a very, very long time because no one taught me. I had to lose fights, and I had to watch, and I had to understand, and I had to trial and error, and I had to be like, oh wait, now I'm starting to understand that you get penalized for charging forward when you're already winning because it looks like you're desperate, like you're playing the performance of someone who's desperate, and you get downvoted for that. This took a really long time for me to understand. So at the time, the Thais were writing about me that I'm not really doing Muay Thai. I'm really just grabbing and kneeing, which is a part of Muay Thai, but it's not beautiful or whatever. That's accurate. Like, they're not wrong. They're looking at me and comparing me to what Muay Thai should be. If you want to say that I am better at grabbing and kneeing than many other Westerners that were here at the time, that's fair. From a Western perspective, comparing me to other Westerners, from what we can see of this, that, and the other thing, sure. But if you're gonna look at me from the West and be like, Sylvie has better Muay Thai than any other Westerner that's there right now, I'll be like, I'm sorry, you don't know what you're looking at. Thais can say, well, actually less so now because I think Thais are actually like losing their eyes for Muay Thai. But to some degree, people who know what a London accent sounds like and people who don't know what a London accent sounds like, but it sounds Britishish kind of thing. Last night I was laughing really hard because Kim is this Australian guy I've known forever because he is from old Lana. He's from the guard before me. He's from like the golden age of Lana before me. So we met up in Chiang Mai before I moved down here, and we still chat online sometimes. He's from Australia, and he had just discovered the Outback Steakhouse, and he did not know that this is an American chain of restaurants, but he was like fascinated by it because he's like, why is everything Toowoomba themed? Why would Toowoomba be the shrimp or whatever? And I was like, no, I'm sorry, I have to apologize for the American Outback Steakhouse chain that this is, but we don't think that this is Australian food. Like, Western people don't think this is like an authentic Australian food thing, so don't get bent out of shape about it. But I was laughing, and I'm laughing just now, because I'm pretty sure that the commercials that I saw for Outback Steakhouse and Foster's, Australian for beer, I'm pretty sure that's not actually even an Australian person. doing those commercials. Like that's probably some American dude they hired who's like, yeah, I can do an Australian accent, and he's like, just Australian for beer, and that's as bad as it is, honestly. Like, it's not very good. So yeah, that's why I'm bringing it back up, having talked about it yesterday and giving detail about it today. And there was a fight at Lumpini in, I want to say it was 1998, because I was amazed at how early that was. It was Westerner versus Westerner. It was a British guy versus a guy from Holland fighting for a belt in a heavyweight category at Lumpini. So it's Westerner versus Westerner at Lumpini for a belt, although it wasn't for a Lumpini belt. Although the belt that they had in the photo is one that I've actually seen. Like, it seemed familiar enough to me. So I don't know if it was that title or whether they just used that belt because it was there. But it's not mentioned in the little stub article, so I don't know what it is. But again, as they're writing this up and they're talking about this fight, they're like, it wasn't Muay Thai, but the gamblers thought it was really entertaining. And it's like, Westerners have been in Thailand doing Muay Thai for a really long time, but at this time when there were much fewer of us here doing it, the attitudes were kind of more comparing it to, you know, the kind of level of Muay Thai that would be on stage at Lumpini or at the King's birthday or whatever the thing is. And then Thailand has such this complicated relationship to real and fake. I've talked about this before in previous runcasts, but it's because performance is a thing in all of Muay Thai, whether it's fighting for a Lumpini belt or whether it's like at a blind boxer show. Like performance is a huge part of Muay Thai. Skarpowski actually talked about this a lot in his Muay Thai library session, and he's dead on. Performance is a huge part of Muay Thai. And so when he's picking his top 5, he keeps picking people who perform, who are like amazing showmen. This is completely true for what Golden Age Muay Thai was, and it goes back before that. Like, you look at Silver Age Muay Thai, there's a lot of performance going on. It's really beautiful. I've lost my train of thought about that. So like, you'll get these really weird fights out in the provinces. They'll be like old men, or there'll be like aunties, like they look like someone's mom or grandma fighting. Little kids, you'll see chu katoi, so lady boys is the word that a lot of people know, but trans fighters, you see 2 trans fighters, and now they have actually some fights where they take these trans fighters seriously. They're not trans versus trans in those, they tend to be trans women versus a cis man, but those are serious fights. But when they do the 2 trans fighters together, they tend to make it kind of like a funny, like Harlequin type show. But that's kind of what a Western fighter is in some cases, is like, it used to be that this was this kind of like, look what we have. And when I go fight in the provinces, I'm fighting real fights for sure, but sometimes I'm the only Westerner on the card. I might, besides Kevin, be the only Westerner there. And there's this kind of like novelty to it. Just like, ooh, let's all look at this. Like, what is this? And then there's this kind of like, oh, gang. Like, they're very excited that I just don't piss myself in the ring. Like, I don't know what the expectations are, but usually they tend to be like very enthusiastically like, oh, that was very good. I don't know what they thought they were gonna see, but when you see, like, I've actually seen fights with Westerners out in the provinces or even in stadia where it's cringy. It's like this, it's not their fault. Like, the Westerner just really is not that skilled. They might not have been training for very long, and they're doing their best given what they can do, but it's like, it's not good. And it's just entertainment. Like, people are very entertained by it, and that's fine. That can be what it is, but the lines have blurred between that being like out in the provinces versus that being in like a national stadia. Hi, babies. All right, we have babies coming. We like different sized puppies.